isumpina, kung sakaling isumpina na po sila ng Korte Suprema, ng impeachment court po.
Finally, Mr. President, Senator Miriam Santiago.
The lady senator from Iloilo.
Mr. President, allow me to address this question to the prosecution panel as a group. What on earth were you thinking? You are asked to tell the court early in the opening of this impeachment trial, how many witnesses will you present? You answered 100. It was in all the banner headlines of all the major newspapers. Now you are telling us you will present maybe in effect 15 at most. I repeat, what on earth were you thinking? Were you playing games with us? You know that when the judge asks you how many witnesses you will present, that is not binding on the lawyer. The judge has no power to limit the number of witnesses. That is only an approximation. So if your answer is, we only wanted to make sure, then you could have approximated a figure relatively close to the about 15 or so that you will present. Why say 100? What on earth was going through your mind? Were you trying to mislead the court? Were you trying to conduct trial by publicity? And may remind you, prosecution panel, in the rules of the impeachment court promulgated by the Senate, the senators are themselves prohibited from making public statements on the merits of the case. How dare you make allegations about personal attacks concerning senator judges? Pare-pareho tayong nasa politika. Huwag nyo kaming lukuhin dito. Nagagaling yun sa inyo. In the same way that maybe the defense is also engaging in the same practice, let's say, in self-defense, in its kindest light. Kaya huwag na kayong magpapaggapan-gapan dyan. Irespeto nyo ang impeachment court. Huwag kayong atake personal. Malapit na talaga akong mag-privilege speech dito tungkol sa sub-judice rule. Nagtatago kayo ha? Lumabas kayo dito. Ngayon, itong Article 3 ninyo, I'm reading from your complaint. In creating an excessive entanglement with Mrs. Arroyo through her appointment of his wife to office, what are you thinking? Excessive entanglement is a term of art in constitutional law that is applied in cases involving the separation of church and state. When you use the term excessive entanglement, that means this is a case involving the power of the state to regulate the activities of the church and vice versa. Don't use this term of art here because it has nothing to do with the church-state conflict. Pasiklab kayo ng pasiklab, you are using terms of art in law. Pwede ba? Sabihin nyo na lang, he was so close, therefore he could no longer maintain the independence or the cold neutrality of an impartial judge. Ganun na lang. Huwag na kayong gamit pa ng kung ano-anong salita sa constitutional law. Hindi tayo maintindihan pag tatawanan tayo ng mga students of constitutional law and all tripartite democracies like ours. Pag may term of art, huwag mong gamitin yan. Kung hindi ka sigurado kung anong meaning yan. Kaya tayo tumatagal dito eh. This all taking a toll on my physical condition. I have to make that of record. Because I think to myself, what will lawyers outside of our country think when they read the transcript? Saka habang nagbibista tayo dito, walang patid ang atake personal sa aming mga impeachment court judges, whether we are perceived to be in favor of the prosecution or of the defense. Ano ito? Trial by publicity? Are you hoping that you can frighten or threaten or intimidate the impeachment court into a decision in conformity with your own particular view of the law, which I must say sometimes bizarre. It's not only peculiar, but itself bizarre. So Byzantine that I cannot figure out what it is that you're trying to do. Pagkatapos sa gabi, Mr. President, I want our colleagues to know, there was a special newscast saying that UP students are going to conduct a referendum or a survey with 3 questions. Sa tingin mo ba, pwede pang manatili sa posisyon si Chief Justice Corona and others of like import? In the first place, no UP student with an IQ that is demanded of the state university will conduct that kind of a survey when only the prosecution has presented evidence. Wala pa nga nag-present ng evidence ang defense eh. Magtatanong ka na? And secondly, what is the implication? That this matter can be resolved by referendum? Eh kung mag-survey kaya ang Ateneo at kontra sa survey ng UP, ano ngayon nagagawin natin? Anong klaseng pampropaganda yan, aber? Mag-isip-isip naman kayo, nakaka-insulto. You're an insult to the intelligence of educated Filipinos. At saka hindi man lang student council ng UP magkakandak. Nag-interview sila ng student leaders daw of 2 colleges. The UP has a constituency of maybe 30 million all over the country, or maybe, I don't know. Senator Angara would know better than me. Maybe close to 50 million. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Atwagan ninyo akong lokohin? Hindi yan lilitaw sa newscast kung walang may nagbayad. Dahil hindi naman legitimate news yan eh. Magsusurvey? Ang isang campus is not even officially sponsored by the owner of the school or the administrators of the school or by the student council of that school. Saka ang dami inyong komentaryo sa aming mga senator judges. Eh kung magkomentaryo kaya kami during the trial about your competence. In fact, maybe about your mental sanity. Aber, gustuhin nyo? Huwag nyo kaming ginaganyan, ha? And besides, I have evidence about a certain congressman who has been testifying here. Huwag nyo kong pilitin to reveal my hand. I can prove that he's lying under oath. Be careful.
Senator Joker Arroyo, Mr. President, wishes the
Gentleman
be
from
recognized.
Makati and Bicol.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I keep on one. I am amazed at the statement of the prosecution that they have difficulty because the respondent is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Now, but you have the backing of no less than the President of the Philippines. How can you say that? You have the support of the President of the Philippines, no less. You should have no problem getting witnesses because of the, suasion. But, so I suppose you should be careful about your statements. I can understand your problem that you will, as I've said always, I've been in that seat, that you will have problems. But don't ascribe that to external problems, like citing that it's hard to fight the Chief Justice of the Philippines. You have on your corner, the President of the Philippines. Thank you, Mr. President.
Your Honor, please. Your Honor, please.
The counsel for the defense.
Your Honor, please, may I be allowed to say a couple of words, Your Honor?
Proceed.
In connection, the mention had been made of the pattern of my cross-examination when the defense turn come in. Now, I had all the while resorted to a question relative to the conference between the witness and the counsel for the prosecution, because it is our humble opinion, Your Honor, that the complaint had been haphazardly prepared. It was railroaded with no evidence on hand yet, and immediately it was thrown into the lap of this Honorable Impeachment Court, Your Honor. We did prove that this is true because, as what the witnesses had been saying, there had been no conferences with them by the prosecution panel, neither were they asked to submit any evidence whatsoever. And our point is to show that there was merely a fishing expedition on the part of the prosecution when these witnesses were called, Your Honor. The complaint was filed way back in December, Your Honor. They were interviewed only at the time when they were on the stand, Your Honor. So that supports our suspicion, Your Honor, that at the time the complaint was filed, there was no evidence on hand, which is violative of the dictum laid down by the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Salonga versus Paño, Your Honor, that before any complaint or prosecution complaint must be filed, then the prosecutor must have in his hand the evidence to support the allegations of the complaint or accusation, and not file the complaint and thereafter look for evidence. That was our intention. It was never our intention to cast aspersion or any malice against the members of the prosecution, but only to show that notwithstanding the absence of probable cause, notwithstanding the thorough investigation that was necessary, demanded by the nature of the proceedings, Your Honor, the complaint was filed and it was railroaded to this honorable impeachment court. Thank you, Your Honor.
If I may, Mr. President, just a short manifestation lang po.
Can
Yes.
we shorten this?
Yes, po.
I'll
Very-
give you a chance, but we have wasted almost
Maiksi lang po.
more than an hour already discussing things that are ought to have been a time that ought to have been utilized to present your case. But anyway, go ahead.
Opo, salamat po. Totoo po yun, kahit na may question ang depensa, talagang may kahirapan kami sa witnesses. Nadagdagan po siyempre yung desisyon halimbawa ng Korte Suprema, yung resolution ng February 14, nakat po siyempre ang aming mga witnesses. Pero gayon pa man po, tatangkain pa rin namin makapresenta ng pinaka-importanting witnesses namin dito at para ayaw naman namin humaba ito. So, ang aming statement lang po, handa naman po kami magpresenta ng mga witness at ebidensya. May problema lang po kami talaga. Katulad nito, sinasite ko po ngayon, itong February 14 resolution, mula Chief Justice hanggang security guard po, baka mahirapan kami mag-present. Lahat na lang ng dokumento na kahit walang kinalaman sa deliberasyon ng Korte Suprema, pinagbabawal po ng Korte Suprema. So, we are having that difficulty, but we will try, Mr. President, our utmost to overcome that
Alam
difficulty
mo,
po.
Ginoong prosecutor, ang remedyo dyan ay hindi manggagaling dito sa impeachment court. Ang remedyo dyan ay baguhin yung saligang batas na ginagamit natin sa paglilitis na ito. Habang yan ay hindi napapalitan, yun ang susundin natin na reglamento, yung saligang batas natin na nakasalang ngayon.
Salamat po.
Di ba?
Mr. President,
Majority Floor Leader.
yes, may we move on to the business for today. Prosecution, we call on the prosecution. We're ready for the continuation of their presentation of evidence.
Thank you.
Your witness.
Thank you po. The first witness will be presented by Private Prosecutor Attorney Art Lim, Your Honor, please. May I give the rostrum to him po.
I was about to suggest, Your Honor, if it will not be asking too much, that the good prosecutor, public prosecutor, handle the prosecution, Your Honor.
Well,
so that we will be better enlightened,
There-
Your
there-
Honor.
Counsel-
Your Honor, there will come a time when I will handle a witness.
Counsel-
If Justice Sereno is... I think, Your Honor, it was unfair for the defense to dictate who... sorry, Your Honor.
I said already, let's stop all of this discussion. We cannot finish this case if we are not going to do our work. We have heard enough. So let us forget about these opinions. Let's go to the business of the day. Present the case. Present your witness.
Attorney Art Lim, Your Honor, please.
Now, counsel for the defense, let them control their side of the controversy.
I voted.
The panel of prosecutors created by the House has full control of the manner by which they will present their case, including the designation of lawyers that will direct the examination. So, please do not interfere.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was making that as a suggestion only, Your Honor. Thank you.
Proceed.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, and the honorable members of the court. We would like to